The process of creating your first invoice involves the selection of the Invoice menu option. At this stage, you're able to create your very first invoice. We start by locating the Cengage entry for company information for which this invoice will be sent. As you type the company name for Cengage, you'll have a number of options to look through and scroll through as a means of determining the company which the invoice is sent to. You're needing to select the one for Cengage Learning in Mason, Ohio. To confirm the address is listed on the screen, you'll want to match that, and the details that are hidden underneath the Edit feature allow you to see that there is a contact person as well as a phone number for this invoicing purpose. This first invoice I'm actually going to create as a template that'll serve as a base for all types of invoicing I have to submit that relate to webinars that I help conduct for the Faculty Partner Network. I'll set this template up, give it the appropriate name and the categorization in parentheses. I tend to put a starting date that is well in the past so that it finds itself at the top of my list of invoices. I then choose the item for which this is listed. This will be a webinar. And the description for this item will involve typically the title of the webinar. And then including in the parentheses the actual date of the webinar, as well as the time. The quantity of the webinar is the number of hours associated with this effort, the unit price based on current faculty partner invoicing for webinars, and then a possibility of adding additional notes here that will help the processing of this invoice. I tend to include my vendor number as well as the invoice duplication in the notes. So whatever invoice I've been assigned for this project, I also include it in the notes located here. I also include an internal invoicing number to help me organize and correlate to my own invoicing spreadsheets. This is completely optional. I also include in this notes section a reference to who I might have been working with or a point of contact for this particular project. The most important feature of the notes is including the attention to Brittany laws in the form of ATTN:BLAWS to help process this through the Faculty Partner Network. That's it. You've created your first invoice that's going to help payment for webinar. You can now choose to save and close this invoice for future use. The future use of any invoice that you have is simply generated through the duplicate option listed along the side of the entry for template webinar. It's possible to duplicate this template, structuring it with a new title, invoicing numbers that are provided by the Faculty Partner Network process, and submitting it for the sake of reimbursement and payment.